What are you talking about? Triple H already showed that it works, and Vince McMahon doesn't care. But he's going to do what he wants to do, because how he wants to do it, because he's Vince Kennedy McMahon. And he's the man because he's the man when he was the man when he first was the man and the man.
Houston, we have a problem.
Yes!
Gentlemen, welcome to the Wrestling Realm. I'm Brian H. Waters. This is the one, the only, the remarkable, the impeccable, the real Dwayne Allen. What's up, man?
What's up, brother?
Hey, we promised consistency this time.
No, this we're gonna do it. This is it. Let's shoot, man. Let's get it done.
All right. So speaking of consistency, today's topic: the chairman of the board.
Oh boy,
Vince McMahon. I said Vinny Man.
Vinny Man. What are you, Shawn Michaels now? Mr. Vinny Man?
Well, but Vince McMahon, tell us about him, Dwayne.
Vincent Kennedy McMahon, a third-generation promoter, the godfather of what we consider professional wrestling, or as he might call it, sports entertainment. The man responsible for what we know today as the World Wrestling Entertainment, or in short, the WWE. The blueprint for what most of the world considers professional wrestling. Mm-hmm. The gold standard. The head honcho, the top draw in the business.
Absolutely. But has he lost his step?
That's the question.
Yeah.
That's why we're here today, ladies and gentlemen. It's because the IWC, I told you we're paying attention this time, so you were listening. The IWC has been up in arms rather lately. Mm-hmm. Why? Because it seems like that Vincent Kennedy McMahon, as much of a genius and as much credit as he's gotten for the joy of modern professional wrestling, has he lost a step? So today, we will explore some of Vince McMahon's hits and misses, and if things really need to change. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
You know, Vince has always found a way to change with the times.
Okay.
I have no doubt that he would do it this time. You go back to the rock and roll, the wrestling era, right?
Okay.
They call it rock and wrestling.
Gotcha.
Nobody else thought of that. You know, wrestling was just one of those things. It was regional based. You know, it was competition. You know, you wrestled and you protected the business.
Okay.
Well, Vince said, look, we got to sell sports entertainment. He took and partnered with a guy named Hulk Hogan. And they took the wrestling world by storm. WrestleMania 1. Okay. You know, you think about it, I wasn't born around that time. So by the time I got into wrestling, it was all about the glitz and the glamour. But before, naturally, you know, my father was like, man, it wasn't all this acrobatic stuff. It wasn't all this. It was just straight competition. But Vince saw that. And his dad hated it. Did not want him to compete. He even said his dad knew he would not have sold him the company.
Well, let's talk about his dad.
Mm-hmm.
Vince McMahon Sr. apparently sold the company to Vince McMahon Jr.
So, but we can't call him that. It's Vincent James McMahon, Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Vincent J. McMahon, mm-hmm. Vincent K. McMahon.
There we go.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about what he did.
Right.
Vincent J. McMahon owned the Worldwide Wrestling Federation.
Yep. Based out of New York.
Mm-hmm. Another regional promotion, preferably a part of the National Wrestling Alliance in some way, shape, or form. I don't have the complete details on that or that entire deal, but another regional promotion, right?
Exactly.
Naturally, Vincent Kennedy McMahon gets involved in business with his father, mm-hmm. and he does something rather controversial, right?
Yep.
Already shaking things up. He convinced his father to sell him the company. He sells him the company, but then decides that he wants to go in a different direction than the way the business had been going previously.
Uh-huh.
Right? So naturally, okay, you're saying to yourself, out of respect for the other territories, as they were known back in those days, other regional promotions, you kind of work together and, you know, complete company-wide policy to make sure that everybody benefited in some way, shape, or form for the business of professional wrestling. Mm-hmm. But Vincent K. McMahon decided to do something different. He had a dream of going national.
Yep.
Commercial licenses, products, consumerism at an all-time high, especially going into the late 70s and early 80s. Mm-hmm. So, needless to say, Vince is used to controversy.
Absolutely.
So I can imagine how Vincent J. McMahon, a lot of his cohorts and colleagues may have felt knowing that his son got involved and eventually decided to, I don't know, snatch up talent from other promotions.
Yep.
Why did it work?
Well, he was in New York.
Okay.
That's the biggest market in the world.
Why
At
is it
least
the biggest
United
market in the
States.
world?
Because I mean, it's the what they call the melting pot.
Mm-hmm.
You have people from all over. You know, it's the number one. We TV people. It's the number one television market.
Okay.
Everybody, you know, there's a thing called East Coast bias, but nonetheless, guess what? If you're on the West Coast, you're paying attention. What are they doing in New York? If you're somewhere in South Dakota, what are they doing in New York?
Okay.
Same with wrestling.
Okay.
The goal was to get to New York. You know, even during the territories, you wanted to be there because that's where a lot of the photographers, a lot of the writers, I won't call them the bloggers because they weren't bloggers yet.
Okay.
But that's where the media coverage was.
Okay.
And that's where, Bruno Sammartino, one of the biggest draws in that the heyday.
The Italian Stallion.
Yeah. So that's why they wanted to get there. And that's the reason why it worked. I was reading Bret the Hitman Hart's book. And he said when he sat there with his dad and he talked about this movement that was getting ready to happen, he said Vince is going to be successful because he got that New York market and he'll be able to get everybody. And that's why it worked.
Okay, so let's dig a little bit deeper into that.
Mm-hmm.
What came from Vince McMahon taking guys that were already considered made stars, wrestlers that most fans were already familiar with through their regional-based territories and their local television, but all of a sudden came to this bigger platform, Madison Square Garden, the Big Apple.
Mm-hmm.
What did Vince McMahon do so well that all these other companies chose not to capitalize on?
Promotion. You said it earlier. Commercial licenses, catering to children. That's more tickets. And people hate it today, but as a parent, he gets more money from me if I go to a show than he would from you. Let's be real. You one ticket. You might buy, you might say, I don't need a t-shirt today. Me, I take my son, I take myself. And then if my daughter want to go, then my wife go.
Yeah,
That's 4 tickets versus 1.
True, because she's getting older.
Getting older, right? Then they're going to see shirts. And if they've been good, why not get them a shirt? That's more merchandise. Even if it's just like, remember when the New Day had the little horns that light up? I got my son one of them.
Sure.
You remember, I told you I was running around all day at Battleground 2016 looking for those AJ Styles gloves.
Right, yeah,
that's the thing, So he understood catering to children was smart.
Okay, so you said it. You were a consumer. You were a fan. Mm-hmm. We watched at the time.
Yep.
How did it affect you directly? Where's your proof that this actually worked? We're wrestling fans. We got a proof that this stuff actually works. So where was your first experience of this new idea of promotion, consumerism, licenses, commercials, ice cream bars, merchandise, magazines?
My first was WrestleMania Challenge, the video game on regular Nintendo.
Okay.
That was one. Then it was the magazines, WWF magazines, going into the store with my grandfather, my mother, and my uncle. Hey, can you give me that magazine? Parents always want you to read a book, whether it's wrestling or something. So the fact that I had magazines, and granted, I was just looking at the pictures, but that's what it did. And, I wasn't around too much for the ice cream bars. I might have missed it, or maybe they just didn't get them for me. Mom, what's up with that? But
I wasn't allowed to have too much sugar. Maybe I was too hyper. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's where it was for me, just the merchandise. Then every year there was a video game coming out. We can't forget about the Wrestling Buddies.
Yes.
I had Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior, and I beat the stuffing out of it, literally the stuffing out of it, where my mother would sew it, and then she's like, all right, it's time to throw this away. And then, of course, we had the sheets and stuff.
Yeah. Who didn't have wrestling bed sheets?
Mm-hmm.
So there you have it. You have the effect of Vince McMahon's biggest hit, I would consider the 80s.
Yes.
Commercialism, consumerism, all the above and everything that follows underneath that banner.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about the names that came out of all this. You had your Hulk Hogan's, you had your Macho Man Randy Savage, you had your Ultimate Warriors, you had your Junkyard Dogs, you had your Big John Studs, you had the Georgiano Studs, you had your Mean Gene Oaklands.
Mm-hmm.
All the names we've come to know and love. Hit. Things began to change.
Yeah.
As time went on, and as children often do, they grow up. They don't always like the same things they did when they were younger.
Yeah.
Right? So naturally, there was some sort of drop-off after the rock and wrestling connection kind of faded out because, mind you, some of our favorite superstars began to get older. So naturally, the product began to change.
Mm-hmm.
Where did it all go wrong?
You said it. we got older, Hulk Hogan didn't evolve. He was still say your prayers, eat your vitamins. He was the biggest star. Ultimate Warrior was in and out. Macho Man was kind of the second fiddle, because let's be real, if you watch Dark Side of the Ring, you saw he was going through some personal issues.
And Andre was on his way out.
Andre was
getting older.
Health
deteriorating.
Yeah, I mean, so we started seeing like the evolution of the wrestlers. Your Bret the Hitman Harts. You had a young Shawn Michaels coming up, but kind of had to get Hogan out of the way. And then, when Vince realized that, he says, time to wind this thing down. Bret wasn't he was valuable, don't get me wrong. He was marketable, but he wasn't the same he wasn't that larger than life presence. For me, I didn't watch a lot of comics. I didn't do the Spider-Mans, the X-Men.
You missed out on so much.
I know, but Hulk Hogan was my superhero. Bret Hart was my favorite wrestler, but he was never a superhero to me, and that's the difference.
So naturally, something happened, okay? You created so many characters, and it worked. Yeah. Things change, time goes on. Naturally, things have to change, but maybe they didn't change right away. But something happened, very, very public. A scandal.
Oh, let's go to break, because you about to get in the nitty gritty.
Oh, because I was going there.
Yeah, so let's take a break.
We've got bills to pay.
We'll be back after these messages. Folks, make sure you catch me each and every week on Break It Down with Brian H., brought to you by the Wrestling Wrealm.
Speaking of Breaking It Down with Brian H.
Oh, boy.
I noticed that on your segment, on your show, there's a segment that sounds awfully familiar to me. The Tapped Out Top Rope segment.
Well,
No.
Since we made our comeback,
No.
I figured I would bring it back.
No. See, that was an original segment from like season 1.
Right.
So you just decided that you're going to go on your show and go take something from season 1 and add it to your show. Were you going to run that past me or anything?
You listened to the promo. You listened to the test pilot.
You
had an opportunity to say something.
I know, but I didn't think it was going to catch on. Like, it's catching on more on your show than it did season 1. And I think that bothers me a little bit.
Well, we got more fans.
Whatever.
We got more followers.
Whatever.
Look, folks, each and every week, catch me on Break It Down with Brian H. Anywhere you can get all your podcasts.
And our original segment, too.
And we're back. So, we're talking Vince McMahon, has he lost a step? But we're talking about the history. You brought up a scandal.
Oh, yes.
Talk about it.
A steroid scandal rocked the World Wrestling Federation in the 90s. Vince McMahon was accused of allowing and distributing steroids at some point in time within his company, or some type of fuzzy story in between. Not really political, so we're not going to go into details about that situation.
Yep.
But naturally, the family-friendly product known as sports entertainment, professional wrestling, took a very, very huge hit. Mind you, with the World Wrestling Federation being the top commercial draw when it comes to professional wrestling, the access to the children and the families and the things that once made it successful, it had a major black eye. Mind you, when its biggest superstar in the 80s, and most likely the one we considered to have the credit for the biggest draw commercially in professional wrestling, in Hulk Hogan, testified against his former boss, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, in a steroid allegation scandal, Naturally, things progressed, and Vince McMahon was acquitted of all charges or considerations in regards to his knowledge of steroids being used or being distributed underneath his company banner. But like you said prior, a lot of new superstars began to emerge.
Yeah.
But wrestling was no longer as popular as it once was.
Yeah. And the haters were happy. Let's be real.
Okay.
For some reason, there's always been this huge attack on the world of professional wrestling.
Okay.
You go back, just to go back not too far, but back in the 80s, you had the gentleman coming up, and his name escapes me right now, but the reporter, and it was Dr. Deaf Steve Schultz, I think that was his name, when he punched him. He laid him out. Somebody will correct me. But he was nitpicking. And he was like, boy, is it fake? Is this, that, and the other? And that's an insult. I've always said it. I go on record all the time and say it. I will not call the world professional wrestling fake. I'll say predetermined. But to say fake is saying that these guys aren't getting hit. And so now with this steroid situation, everybody's like, yeah, wrestling's going down. But Vinnie Mac's resilient.
So Vince McMahon tries again. He takes the same blueprint and the same formula he once had before, and he says, okay, I've done it before. let's do it again. So they began to create a new generation of stars,
Yeah.
favorably known to us as the New Generation.
Yeah.
Emerged stars such as Bret the Hitman Hart, the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels, Big Daddy Cool Diesel, the Bad Guy Razor Ramon, 123 Kid, and a number of hosts of other casting characters that came along.
You ain't gonna mention Dean Douglas,
No.
Jeff Jarrett.
Nah.
They were Intercontinental champions though.
And
Mario Jannetty.
anyway, and new casting characters needed to be created. Now, naturally, successful in its own right, compartmentalized in the business.
Barry Horowitz.
Mr. Pat himself on the back.
Had to do it.
But commercially, it still did not grab the appeal of the mass audience as it once did in the 80s during the rock and wrestling regime.
And they tried. Let's be real. You know, if you go back to some of them new generation pay-per-views, you see them advertising, call the WWE hotline, and they got the jackets, they got the big face with Shawn Michaels, the Razor Ramon shirt that Drake wears now. They tried. It just wasn't as appealing.
So naturally, things began to change. But we will be remiss if we did not bring to attention one major elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Known as World Championship Wrestling, formerly known as the NWA, operating as Jim Crockett Promotions, now bought by billionaire Ted Turner.
I gotta do it.
Go ahead, do it. Do it. Hit him.
Eric, what I gotta do to compete with Vince McMahon?
I'm supposed to be ready for
You
this part?
supposed to-
Hold on, here we go. Ready, here we go. Give me prime time.
Prime time? Give Eric 2 hours Monday night.
And that's what he did, ladies and gentlemen. WCW Monday Nitro. The latest product of professional wrestling that would once again rock the industry as we know and love it. So what
But
happened?
you know what? As a child, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I ain't gonna lie. I was probably, 95? I was 9. I was like, okay, cool. I get wrestling on Monday nights from from WCW and WWF. But I didn't look at it like that big of a deal. And of course, as I'm older, I realized the significance, especially with Lex Luger showing up the first night.
Well, it's like you said, we were getting older. So there's certain things that we were privy to that we may not have paid attention to before. But at the end of the day, it was all wrestling.
Yeah.
We knew there was more than one company in professional wrestling. We just didn't know how big of a deal things would really get until maybe a year or two later. So naturally, WCW has come into the mix, and they decided they want to compete with Vince McMahon. Another problem, because the industry is still taking the hit, but things are slowly changing. So what does WCW do? It poaches two of its biggest stars that was actually going right for the World Wrestling Federation at the time, and paid them a buttload of money. We can say buttload, can't we? A buttload of money, and things change forever.
Yeah, man. Guaranteed contracts.
Guaranteed contracts.
That's one thing. Then WCW said, let's be a little bit more realistic. Let's be a little bit more edgy. And that's what forced Vince McMahon, again, recognizing the problem, making the adjustment. Now he had Triple H and Shawn Michaels in his ear, the Clique, saying, look, man, nobody wants to do wrestling like that anymore. We're cartoons. That's when these guys, they're looking at their friends down south in Atlanta having so much fun. And it changed. And it made sense. And that's why, when we talk about, has Vince McMahon lost his step? It do make you wonder. We heard John Moxley come out there and talk all this stuff about the creative process.
Okay.
But when hasn't Vince McMahon been a visionary, and when hasn't he made an adjustment? I mean, the WWE Network, for goodness sakes. I ain't trying to get too far ahead of myself.
Sure.
But, look at that. They wanted to do a cable channel.
That's very true.
And will be 24/7 wrestling. All day, all night. These people not really trusting Vince McMahon and really understanding who he is.
Right.
Say no. I guess because, what happened with the XFL.
Sure.
So he says, all right, you know what? This don't work. Come out with a network. But I didn't get too far in that. My bad. I got rolling.
Because it's an excellent segue because it brings us to our next question. Why exactly did Vince McMahon decide to change? I'll tell you why. Because the business took a huge financial hit. The success of WCW, Eric Bischoff, the NWO, eventually emerged the Monday Night Wars. The WWF was actually fighting for their lives financially, not only as a company in regards to the professional wrestling product, but also as a business. So naturally, Vince McMahon had no choice but to change.
Yep. Enough is enough. It's time for a change.
The rest is history. We already know. There's no need for us to diverge into what the Monday Night Wars meant and what emerged from it, including the Attitude Era. But wrestling was hitting its biggest numbers, hitting its biggest strides. And after 83 weeks of success from WCW and Eric Bischoff and Monday Nitro and TNT and Ted Turner and Time Warner and everything that is involved with that, the WWF reigned supreme. They finally got back to a point creating new superstars, but changing the product completely differently. I'm talking going off the rails. TV 14 stuff. They began to show you a side of professional wrestling that the audience at the time was looking for, especially in that mid to late 90s era.
Mm-hmm. So, do you think, everybody, it's cool to hate the WWE right now, right? Mm-hmm. It's cool if you're an internet wrestling fan to not like nothing that WWE is doing.
Sure.
Do you see the next big change coming from Vince McMahon? The next big visionary? Or has he lost a step and is he stuck in his ways? Will he bounce back?
That is a very loaded question. And here's why. The reason that Vince McMahon changed in the first place had to do with his overall company taking a hit.
Ooh.
Mind you, after the Attitude Era ended and WCW's properties were bought off by Vince McMahon and was now owned by what we know as today as the WWE, there's been no legitimate competition that can really force McMahon's hand to really say, I need to change.
Yep.
In recent days, those same fans that grew up enjoying what we love to see are craving for a product once again. Mm-hmm. But the question is, will he change? Why should he? At the time, the business was hurting.
Yeah, how about that?
He had a family, he had superstars, he had employees, and the World Wrestling Federation was on the verge of going out of business. Mm-hmm. Maybe not, give or take the numbers hearsay.
They said they was close.
But they say a lot of former WWE officials say they were awfully close. Mm-hmm. Today, the WWE's not hurting. They're doing some of their best business in the world right now. Yep. They're cutting deals with television companies in other countries. We all know the numbers in regards to some of these super shows that they're doing, and the product, the merchandise is at an all-time high. Competition has reemerged once again, and they have openly said, we are here to challenge the way things have been. But does Vince McMahon really think he needs to change? If the business isn't hurting, the only thing I feel like Vince McMahon has to worry about is competing to keep his superstars happy, because his creations could also go somewhere else and make a name for themselves. But do they have the financial resources and the pedigree to really put a dent in Vince McMahon's business? No, it's natural. You say a wrestling move, you gotta do something.
Yeah.
So that's the question that everybody seems to want to neglect. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I don't think he will. Has Vince McMahon lost a step? I think so. Okay. But not in regards to the business of professional wrestling, because he's doing some of the best business he's ever done. Mm-hmm. But in regards to the product, I mean, week in and week out.
I don't think so.
You don't think so what?
I don't think he's lost a step necessarily. I think he's stuck in his ways. And I think the difference is...
What's the difference?
The difference is that if he gets the right person in his ear, he'll look at it, he'll understand. I don't think nobody's challenging him.
That I don't agree with.
But
I don't think it's the right person. I think it's the right situation.
Okay.
If something bothers him in his product enough, that's going to force his hand to change. I believe he will change.
Okay, I got you.
And the reason I say that is because look at the Attitude Era. Look at the Monday Night Wars. It forced his hand. He didn't want to change. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at DX. DX was constantly going out there, pushing the envelope, doing things they said we had no business doing. Right. And Vince would chew them out and say, we're not doing this, yada, yada, yada. But then when it worked, he said, yeah, we're going to go back to
USA loved it.
You're going to do the same thing you just got in trouble for. Now I want you to do more of it. Uh-huh. So the situation is, what can happen, Brian Nates? Tell the fans, this is what it's about. We did all this stuff to get to this point. Right. Tell me what needs to happen in order for Vincent Kennedy McMahon to not be so stuck in his ways and willing to change his product.
We gotta go commercial.
Is that what that was?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
We gotta go. We gotta take a quick commercial. I know the show ain't gonna be too much longer, but we
got bells now.
They calling us. We'll be back after this. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Our final part of has Vince McMahon lost a step? Real Dwayne Allen says he has lost a step. I think so. I don't think he's necessarily lost a step. I think he's buying time, and then he's gonna take their competition by the throat and sticking it in a dagger. I think he's letting them give them enough room to hang themselves.
No.
Because nobody else can compete. Nobody. You got to have a love for professional wrestling.
Debate time. Here it goes.
Okay.
Here's why I'm not so sold on that whole ideal.
Okay.
Let me explain to you why.
Mm-hmm.
Many of the superstars that we're enjoying watching today, right?
Yeah.
They all came through NXT. They were superstars in their own right on the global scene, independent scene, but they came into NXT and Triple H was able to put them in a position to take that current brand and elevate them and the business at the same time. We all love NXT and what it has become today. And a lot of those superstars, they paved that way for the show to be what it is today.
That's true.
But then a lot of those guys got to the main roster, and they have not necessarily been the same. They have not been projected in the same light. No, don't get me wrong. Naturally, NXT was supposed to be developmental.
Yeah.
But it kind of evolved into a third brand. And a lot of superstars have come and gone through the ranks, and yet they have fizzled out. Because Vin McMahon is not necessarily a huge fan of what these people are doing in NXT, but it's enough to get the fans acclimated and acquainted with the new names, so when they are pulled and elevated to the main roster, you are familiar with them, and you will buy a t-shirt.
But listen, right? How many times you see wrestlers from NXT not get a huge reaction?
At first, sure.
So that goes to show you how many people we have that. It's a reason why NXT don't sell out 30, 40,000 seat arenas. Now, here's the thing. We notice it in the trend, right?
Okay. Notice the trend. What you
We
got?
see it with Tyler Breeze first.
Okay.
What do you do?
Breeze.
He go back down.
Sure.
Let's just say some of the. I'm gonna use. I'm trying to think of somebody real quick that's not being used properly. Let's take Aleister Black, right?
Okay.
Let's just say
EC3, but
okay, or EC3. Let's say he gets a little bit of main roster taste.
okay.
Where no, he's not really kid friendly, but just somebody in that demographic who wasn't watching NXT before.
Okay.
Wants to see him, like for whatever reason they connect with him. A few people.
Well, can we use a lady? Can we say like Bailey?
Bailey's a star.
I mean, she is now. Doesn't make a difference if they're a star now. You're talking about somebody that's just currently not being
somebody
used.
that's currently not being used. I would say Ember Moon.
Okay,
more
sure,
so.
sure,
You take these people and then you take them back to NXT.
sure.
I think they will take some of the crowd with them. Meaning, now you have like, wait, I gotta watch NXT because this person's on. Because Ember Moon is on. I didn't watch it too much before. You know, I kind of ignored it was on my WWE network. And I think that will be the situation where Vince McMahon would say, as you said, would take the right situation. To me, that would be a situation where he realized, maybe I should start doing a little bit more wrestling this way. You know, we got guys like Adam Cole down there who's going to be a star. But then, like, we talked about this off the air. You got guys like Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby Fish.
I'm nervous.
If you take that formula and it shows that it's working, then maybe we'll start to get some of that main roster flair.
What are you talking about? Triple H already showed that it works, and Vince McMahon doesn't care.
But
Vince is going to do what he wants to do, how he wants to do it, because he's Vince McMahon, and he's the man, because he's the man, he was the man when he first was the man and the man.
It's all about the bottom line, though. Because if NXT starts drawing bigger money, and if they start getting, you know, Double or Nothing, Double or Nothing, what they had about? They had a lot of people at the MGM Grand.
Anyway, I'm hearing 10 to 12,000.
Yeah, but that's a big arena, right?
Sure, absolutely.
You imagine a takeover not associated with SummerSlam or WrestleMania in the MGM Grand. Right now, it doesn't sell out that much.
They sell out Barclays Center 4 times.
On SummerSlam weekend.
So you think because NXT is piggybacking a wrestling weekend, it's just a natural
course of action? As they should. But now I think they're getting to the point, especially after last TakeOver, I think they're getting to the point where they don't have to. So where TakeOver 25 is such a big name, TakeOver 30 won't be in Bridgeport, Connecticut. It could be in an MGM Grand.
Look, if NXT becomes a legitimate third brand outside of Raw and SmackDown, and Vince McMahon has nothing to do with that particular show, everybody we know is going to try to be on NXT.
And that's what's going to make them change.
No.
Yes!
Here's the thing.
When you said keep your superstars happy, right? Let's not act like everybody in the WWE is miserable right now. You got guys like Kofi Kingston.
He doesn't have to make superstars happy. His thing is, I'll just pay you double.
That's
He's
true.
paying guys to stick around and says, listen, we'll double your downside even if we don't use you. So if you're not being used, you still get paid.
You said earlier that that's your concern.
He's using an old game changer. It was the guaranteed contract. Guaranteed contract's not a problem now. So what's the next guaranteed contract, Brian H? What's the next thing that's going to say this is going to change the business? Now, we all thought
Health insurance.
it was going to be the healthcare situation. But we don't necessarily know the details
right.
in regards to that area. And we've kind of heard that, that kind of argument in regards to unions and healthcare and that kind of stuff. When it comes to the boys and the girls of the back, people feel different ways about it.
Yeah. Well, and I also heard that it's more not necessarily healthcare, but free treatment if you get hurt.
Okay, sure.
That's a big difference. That's what we got to realize. That's a big difference. If I go out and get hurt, boom, on my job, I'm going to be treated. But regardless if I have the healthcare insurance or not, but if I do have healthcare, if I do have free health benefits, that means, okay, I can go to the dentist every 2 weeks, and I ain't got to go to Dr. Britt Baker, who want to knock my teeth out before she fixes it.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine that.
So that's the thing. But that could be the next wave.
We got to wrap this up because we'll be sitting here talking about this for another 40 minutes. And you guys won't be watching anymore. You'll be like, this is too long, I'm not watching this.
Well, yeah, hopefully they already hit subscribe down low.
Yeah, hopefully.
Like that.
That would help us a lot. Here's what I say.
But it's a good conversation.
Naturally. Like, when do we not have a good conversation?
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just saying. Here's the thing. I think if we ever get to a point where Vince's homegrown stars begin to jump ship and they can affect the company financially, which is really going to be hard to do now.
Very hard, because you would need I'm going to go out and let him say it. If John Cena and Randy Orton did it, I still don't think it would have hurt the company.
Oh, I think that's to
financially?
Me, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, boy. Have you seen how many commercials John Cena's in? He's in a new commercial every day now. He's got hair and everything.
I just think that now the WWE's money is so much more longer than what it was when Hogan did it.
Listen, I agree 100%. But
Okay,
if you talk about John Cena and Randy Orton, that's Macho Man and Randy
But now, what I will say is they
Hogan.
will definitely elevate. We're going to use AEW. We'll even use Impact. They will elevate whatever company they go to.
Why would you even say that? Like that, they don't even.
Come on, man. They've been around 17 years. We got to give them some respect. Put some respect on Impact's name.
I like TNA. Impact, I don't know what's going on half the time.
Okay.
AEW, that's fair. Okay, that's the latest one to decide to wage war on the E. But Impact.
But all right. I got you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. We finally got down to it. We've brought some things to light, and hopefully we've given you something to think about. Tell us what you think in the comments below. And please, 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 never let the conversation die, because this is the fun of it.
Yep. And then, look, connect with us on Twitter. You can go back and forth with us. We'll have fun at Dwayne Allen 24.
It'll be somewhere. It'll be somewhere on the screen. Somewhere. I don't know where exactly. It'll be somewhere. Just
put it right here. All right.
Just here.
And you can follow me at Brian H. Waters. Together, follow us at Wrestling Wrealm. Jump in the conversation. Hit us on Instagram, same at Wrestling Wrealm. Check out some of the behind the scenes. We really get to see him act like a fool. Till the next time, folks. He's the real Dwayne Allen. I'm Brian H. Waters, and we're out.